This is David from Dirt Cleaner Videos and Superior Lapidary. Welcome back to all my subscribers, and if you haven't subscribed or you're new to the channel, welcome. Hope you enjoyed this little video. I've got a problem with my saw. I'm just tired of mucking it out, and it's getting increasingly difficult for me to do that. So I'm going to make a video about installing a Highland Park Everclean system on my saw. So stay tuned, and you'll get to see a way where we can avoid mucking out our rock saws. All right, here's the saw in question. The last time we met, I put on this switch, which has been working very well. I picked up the switch from HP Lapidary, and that was fine. Now I've got the Everclean system to install. It's going to go on this side of the saw, so dang it, I got to move my magnet and my calipers. First thing I notice when I unbox this is the plate that mounts on the inside of the saw to hold the Everclean comes mounted, at least in this case, comes mounted to the Everclean itself. So I've got to get a wrench and take that out. On this particular model, it is a 7/32 Allen wrench. Check yours for sure, but that's what this one is. This piece I'm also going to use for a pattern to show me how to bolt it up. And I'll show you where that goes, right up there. So I'm going to have to lose my calipers. Simple thing is put a magnet on your saw, your calipers, stick right there. So this is about the general area that plate has got to go. This plate is going to end up on the inside of your saw. Okay. It's got these beveled pieces that the bolts fit in. There we go. So it's beveled, they sit flush, and this goes on the inside of the saw. But I can use this as a template for where I want to put it. The flat side is down, and you want it straight, of course. You want it to look nice, and it should operate vertically better than at some goofy angle. So make sure you get it straight. You don't want it too close to the top. For myself, I'm going to get it kind of as low as possible, maybe down in this area. I just need the additional, the height, I just wanted, so I'm going to try and get it down here, I think. I don't know exactly where. And then I've got to find out the center between all these holes and see where I need this hole drilled out. Although this hole is not round, you're just going to simply drill a round hole through there. Unless you have some plasma cutter or some other way to do it, just take a steel cutting hole saw and make a hole in here that's approximately this size. Yeah, that's the smallest shavings I've seen in quite some time. We got to go to the drill doctor and sharpen this bit up. first hole's in. I've still got this up here for my guide. I can just feel how straight this is or is not. It's pretty even along the top. I've got my plate. I've got the one bolt just set through there just as a holder. There's no nut on the back side. Run a magnet up here. Got another magnet over here just kind of holding this up. So I'm going to take my pencil. All I could find was a carpenter's pencil. It's pretty thick. Take my magnet, make sure everything's up there tight. And as I do this, since carpenter pencil and I'm not really getting the center, I turn it 90 degrees, turn it 90 degrees, turn it 90 degrees. I'll do that on all 3 holes. That should do just what I want it to. There, now I'm left with just a little mark so I can tell just about exactly where center is. All right, well, hopefully now that I've got the holes drilled that everything's going to line up. Well, we're close, but not quite everything is lining up. Let's try this 4th hole. Okay, 3 of these sit flat. This one I got to cut down a little bit. It's a little too tall. We'll just try it with the drill, see if this has got the magic. See if that little bit of persuasion helps. Of course, these are going to come through from the other side. This is not the side they're going to be on. Okay, all 4 are sitting flat. I think that's a success. We'll take and put a mark for the center hole. It's got to be about there. Now, one thing about this, I believe this hole is centered on here, but it's oblong. But all I think I'll have to do is I'm just going to crisscross with a straight edge, make a couple of lines at the intersection. If it looks centered, that's where I'm going to put my So yeah, I got her a bit off center, but it's going to work fine. Trust me. All right, well there it is. It's just that simple to put a hole in the side of your saw. There's a pretty good burr in here. I'll have to clean this out. I'll just use a file, I think, for most of that.
Anyway, the next thing I have to do is I've got to build drill a hole on the other side. All right, we're going to work in this back hole. This is where the oil comes out of the saw. This is what we're going to have there. You can see the O-ring. See the O-ring seal on here. The nut goes on the inside. This piece goes on the outside, goes through the saw, and of course you get a little hose there, or the other way around, whichever. Anyway. This is what I'm going to use to make my mark. You want it as low as possible. Now remember, do not go to the bottom. If you go all the way to the bottom, one, you've got that plate under there, and it's 3/16 inch steel on this particular saw. Yours might be different. So you got to account for that. And then make sure you use the point of the nut so that's above 3/16. Maybe I'll go about right here. So there's the basic hole. We're going to try and make a, that might be a little high. So I can see that my mark is obviously a little bit off. I'll go a little bit to the left, just so I don't go too low. And I know one bit that's going to need sharpening after, but that one's made 6 holes so far. Didn't break that time, it just came out. Oof. Put the old shaving catcher under here. Well, there, it's just that simple. Just as a reminder, this has got a gasket on it. This nipple points in. So I did clean up the outside and inside of the saw. Wipe them down. Well, that does fit, good. Sorry, the old hand is in the way. One thing to keep in mind, when you're snugging something up like this, I showed you the gasket. The gasket is on the outside. You don't want to turn that. You want to turn the nut on the inside. If you turn the piece on the outside, which is easier to get at, you're going to tear that gasket up. It's a big O-ring. That should be all it takes. You know, you don't have to crank down on O-rings too tight. You just got to get them to squish a little bit. You don't want them super flat. So there, the back piece is installed. That's probably the biggest reach you have to do with the whole thing. All right, our next step before we go ahead and mount the whole big unit is to take the pump and put a little tape on here. You don't need a whole lot. A couple wraps, both on the inlet and the outlet. Three wraps should be plenty. All right, 3 wraps on there. That should be plenty. Make sure you don't get any of these loose ends in the hole. The outlet is going to take one of these little brass fittings. We're going to put this on. Don't crank it down too hard. Use a small wrench. When you're using small things, this is just plastic. Go until it feels fairly snug. Right there. Next up, I've just got to screw this to here. There's a chance too, I may have to put a drop down on this. So according to the HP video on these Evercleans, sometimes it doesn't pump well from this height. So they just put a couple of 90s and a nipple in there and drop this pump down. I don't have them right now, so we're going to try it this way. Hand tight should be good enough. You want to, and if I get this and it doesn't tighten up any further, I get to the point where I want to stop. Then I'll just turn this by loosening up the nut on the inside. We're getting close to where I want it to be. And of course it's in almost the wrong direction. Yeah, it's pointing down and away now. Okay, I have got the port facing to the front. I'll show you that in just a second. Now I got to tighten this nut up again. Okay, no problem there. So now I've got this port facing to where the Everclean is going to hang. Now I got to figure out a way to get the Everclean up there. That's going to be a challenge. Before we actually install the big Everclean unit, I got to put this hose on. Well, it's really easy and accessible. It's got a little metal clamp on there. I'm hoping this pliers will do it. One of the big worries I have about this unit, this pump has got plastic fitting on here. It's not going to take too big of a hit to knock that off. So you're going to have to be careful around your saw. What you do in this area, you hit that, you're going to break that fitting off, and I think your pump is destroyed at that point. I don't know if there's a fix for it or not. So now I've got the rubber hose hooked up there. Simply squeeze that. All right, for this next step, I've got to lift up the Everclean, put it into place, put the bolts and the plate on the back side. I had to employ a lift because I cannot lift this and reach in the way I used to. So I did some of the most horrendous rigging I had with a few things I had available in the shop. But I don't think anything's going to fall. I lightened the top up as much as possible. I took the lid off the can out, not a big deal. This thing could still potentially just spin upside down on me. I know that, but they got to get work done. So as I always say, safety third. All right, admittedly, this part of the project has not been going well. I spent a couple hours out here putzing with it, trying to re-drill that hole. I know I've got to re-drill it a little more, so I've got to take this unit off. I know what I have to do. It's a little frustrating, but we're going to get at it and pull this off. I'm going to do the same method I did before. I'm really close, but I've got to do some more. So we're going to go back, unmount this, the 3 bolts, because I can't get all 4 on. Drill that hole out a little bit more, grind it out, whatever it is, hit her again. All right, let's just see if it spins without falling apart. All right, well there you have it. The Highland Park Everclean is installed on here. It's a basic installation. I still don't know a couple things about it. I'm going to fill it up with fluid and then we'll give it the real test. Okay, well I got fresh oil back in here. There was some sludgy stuff on the bottom, but it was pretty loose. It wasn't packed up or anything. So I think the next thing we can do is I'll set this down and we'll see if my pickup tube is low enough. It is just covered. I don't know if it's going to work or not. We need to either add a little more oil or do something else with that pickup tube. This could be one of the problems Highland Park has talked about, where I've got to lower that pump. So to make this drop down, you simply take 1/2-inch pipe. It was a 3.5-inch nipple on the top. I used a 90-degree street L, and the bottom was a 90-degree coupling. Taped them up, put them on, and there you go. That's all you need for a drop down. It's not a big deal. All right, we got nothing yet. What I've got to do is, I think I got to prime that pump. I've tried the other day priming it from above, so I'm going to have to pull the siphon out and try it from in there. So here's the plan. Just gonna put that there. Flip the switch. See if it creates a suction at all. I can hear a little bit of fluid moving around in here. It's like there's some in the hose going from the pump up to the Everclean. I can hear it in here. Okay, so far this hasn't worked. It's merely a pump or siphoning problem. Pump sounds good. So I don't think that's really the issue. I'm going to backfill this by feeding into there. Put that pointing down. Just going to try the pump again. I pushed out the fluid I put in there, but it's really not pumping a lot. That should be pumping a full hose full right there. Just going to pinch it off a little bit. I got just a dab of fluid coming out. It's actually pumping, but it's not pumping at near the rate it should be. The hose is completely submerged. I'll completely block it off and see what happens. a little better. Try it again. Put a little pressure on it. It shouldn't be able to do that. Well, the volume's a little better. I don't want to stop this yet until it really gets going. That's getting better. For some reason that pump just doesn't want to play nice. Okay, I think I'm going to put this together and give her a shot. So we're going to put the cover on. It's 2 thumb screws and we're in business here. Just give it a little spin and they'll sit right in place. Alright, I'll worry about that after. We're going to flip her back on and we're going to watch and see if we can get some fluid eventually out of where it's supposed to come out. I may have to get my fluid level a little higher because what I see is I see some air bubbles being sucked into the hose. It's working but not working quite well enough. Alright, I'm going to have to get a little more fluid. I got to figure out this red thumb button and then I think we'll be off to the races. I did add a little more fluid to the saw, so we're going to give it an old test right now. It's been off for about a day. So I think we got most of the problems fixed. I still may add a dab more oil to the saw. I got a little room on the blade. I don't want to get too much on there because then you really splash oil around. But that seems to be an adequate flow. If anybody out there thinks that is not, please let me know. One other thing I did, I took my valve off the bottom and put a cap back on. Got that knee knocker out of the way. So there we have it. The Highland Park Everclean system. It's actually fairly easy to install. I had a couple of problems, but that was my fault. Using dull drill bits and I had a punch that was a little off center. Once I got past those problems, it actually is a straightforward installation. There's really nothing scientific about it. We'll come back later and we'll give a report on how well it actually works. But for now, I'd give them an A on this one. So please like, comment, subscribe. I'd appreciate that. If you've got a kind comment, leave it. If you've got some kind constructive criticism, that's fine too. I'll try and get back to you. Anyway, there we are. Dirt Cleaner Videos. Superior Lapidary.